Well, let's now go to the U.S. as we take a look at the White House right now, because this is the final day of campaigning before one of the biggest votes of the presidential election year. Millions of Democrats in 14 states will make their pick for the party's presidential nominee. That pick will happen tomorrow. And this happens as Pete Buttigieg decides to drop out of Super Tuesday. And with that, let's go to Lindsay Duncombe. She's in Washington covering all of this for us. So again, the big news really that happened last night was that Pete Buttigieg is suspending his campaign. Talk to us about that.
Well, this is just another dramatic twist as we head into that Super Tuesday vote. It's significant for a number of reasons. Pete Buttigieg won in those disputed, hard-to-read results in Iowa. So the idea that someone who was relatively close to the front of the pack this early on would throw in the towel is a significant development. But those results from South Carolina, where Joe Biden, the former vice president, had that decisive win, really shows that there wasn't a clear path for victory in terms of the delegate count for Pete Buttigieg. She was not able to bring together a diverse coalition of voters, especially when it comes to voters of color. He saw the writing on the wall, he picked the timing, and he made his exit. But a lot of people are really noting the significance of his campaign. This is a virtual unknown, mayor of a middle-sized city in the middle of Indiana. He was the first gay candidate to come anywhere near this close to being on top in the presidential primary process. And that was something that Buttigieg noted in his speech last night.
And we sent a message to every kid out there wondering if whatever marks them out as different means they are somehow destined to be less than. To see that someone who once felt that exact same way can become a leading American presidential candidate with his husband at his side.
So now the big question is, where does that Buttigieg support go? A lot of speculation that it will go to the more moderate candidate in the race, the winner of South Carolina, Vice President Joe Biden, and what is increasingly becoming a two-person race for the most delegates between Biden and Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders. Pete Buttigieg did not go so far as to say who he would endorse last night, but you can read between the lines of that speech when he bowed out, talking about not wanting to go behind an ideologue. He has called out Sanders for that purpose previously. Here's more from Pete Buttigieg.
We need leadership to heal a divided nation, not drive us further apart. We need a broad-based agenda that can truly deliver for the American people, not one that gets lost in ideology. We need an approach strong enough not only to win the White House, but to hold the House, win the Senate, and send Mitch McConnell into retirement.
So the pressure's on Mayor Pete to say where his delegates and supporters should go. The New York Times is reporting that Pete got a couple of really high-profile phone calls last night. One from former Vice President Joe Biden, who was asking him to come on side, something that Buttigieg said he needed to sleep on, according to that report. And then another phone call from a highly influential Democrat who has not stepped into the race and who reportedly did not say how he thought Pete Buttigieg should use the leverage he has now, but did offer him support about living up to this moment that he has created, and that was former President Barack Obama.
So some big phone calls being made, and as you say, people still don't know who officially is going to throw his hat to, but the timing of this very interesting because it does narrow the field ahead of tomorrow's Super Tuesday vote as many Democrats cast a ballot for who they think should represent the party.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the national polling. These are polling averages from Real Clear Politics. Who comes out on top? Bernie Sanders, then Biden. Then we have that disruptor of Bloomberg force. We'll have to see how he does in his first races on Super Tuesday. But when you look at the support from the people who have left, not just Buttigieg, but also Tom Steyer, that becomes a question of where will those voters go? And then how many of these other candidates will stay in the race, potentially dividing support after the Super Tuesday result. Another thing to keep in mind when we look at this departure is some folks, including folks in California and other Super Tuesday voting states, will have already put their X besides Pete Buttigieg's name because of early voting in those states.
Something to watch tomorrow, Lindsay. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Lindsay Duncombe, our senior Washington editor.